Trump pulls out of interview after paper questions his dubious claims about crime rate. Stephanie Grisham, former Trump press secretary, says Harris has my vote. Beyoncé was never scheduled to attend. Trump pulls out of interview after paper questions his dubious claims about crime rate. Stephanie Grisham, former Trump press secretary, says Harris has my vote. Beyoncé was never scheduled to attend 2024 Democratic National Convention, Rep says.
Kamala Harris accepts nomination for president, saying Trump and allies are out of their minds, and accepting historic nomination. Harris vows America, not China, will win 21st century. Trump threatens huge tariffs on countries that don't accept deported migrants, and Panama unveils deportation flights to China, India, and Ecuador to stem U.S.-bound migration.
Venezuela's Supreme Court certifies Maduro's claims that he won presidential election. Germany's president approves the date for next year's national election. Lingo Telecom agrees to $1 million fine over AI-generated Biden robocalls.
Nomination will ensure America always has strongest, most lethal fighting force, says Kamala Harris. Harris says Israel has right to defend itself, Palestinians need dignity, security, as Kamala Harris caps convention with call to end Gaza war, fight tyranny. Paris prosecutors request trial for Gerard Depardieu over rape and sexual assault allegations. Indonesia's Widodo faces lawsuit over hijab removing controversy at Independence Day ceremonies. New Taliban laws ban women's voices and bare faces in public. Democrats get a third-party hopeful knocked off Pennsylvania ballot as Cornel West tries to get on. Central Park 5 appear at DNC to slam Trump over their infamous case. U.S. investigating Americans who worked with Russian state television, and Putin honors TASS news agency with order for valorous labor for role in media industry.
Russia opens criminal investigation into CNN correspondent for reporting in Ukrainian-occupied Russia. North Korean table tennis players under scrutiny for taking selfies with South Korean athletes. Taliban sacks hundreds of men because they can't grow beards, as Taliban morality police dismiss over 280 men without beards from security forces.
In the UK, Starmer to reconsider building scrapped HS2 route. 10 months ago, Labour cannot promise HS2 to Manchester, said Keir Starmer. Two-child benefit cap set to stay, as Reeves faces surprise £3 billion debt rise. In the UK, rape investigators diverted to police football matches and festivals. Inspection fines.
Trump says he's refusing intel briefings, so he won't be accused of leaks. Arizona man accused of posting threats to Trump is arrested. Mega mocks Tim Walz's son for crying during DNC speech, and Rosie O'Donnell, Anna Navarro blast Heartless and Coulter for mocking Tim Walz's son, who has learning disorder, for crying at DNC.
Chipmaker Kioxia aims to list in Tokyo in October, Nikkei says. In Japan, a Kyoto anime studio opens job opportunities for autistic artists. Reuters reports that Chinese entities turn to Amazon Cloud and its rivals to access high-end US chips, AI.
Most frugal woman in Japan spends $1.40 a day on food, saves enough to buy 3 houses by 34. Australia's Qantas blames coding error for 85% discount on first-class flights. Bald eagle feared injured turns out to be healthy, just too fat to fly, after big meal.
Power plant, damage reported, and 7 killed in most massive Russian air attack, Ukraine says. Russia's deadly overnight barrage of missiles and drones hits over half of Ukraine, officials say. Russia says it disrupted Ukraine's power network and arms supplies with massive strike. Tusk government promises to shorten working hours. Australians now have the right to ignore work calls and emails during free time. LA to pay more than $38 million for failing to make affordable housing accessible.
North Korea's Kim calls for country's development of more suicide drones. In the US, Hungarian national arrested on charges of conspiring to export US military-grade radios to Russian government end users.
Hungary reportedly starts evicting some Ukrainian refugees from shelters based on new law, An EU executive to contact Budapest over eviction of Ukrainian refugees. Security services say Norway energy industry faces Russia threats. China and Saudi Arabia cease isocyanate exports to Russia.
Ukrainian drone attack damages high-rise in Russia's Sardov region, injures residents. Putin seizes $100 million from Google to fund Russia's war machine. Ukraine seeks UK green light to strike Moscow and St. Petersburg targets with Storm Shadow missiles. In the most massive and expensive airstrike, Russia spent $1.20 to $1.3 billion on a missile attack on Ukraine on August 26, as Forbes estimates. Poland says drone likely entered its airspace during Russian attack on Ukraine. Wagner Group claims to no longer be fighting in Ukraine. In Russia's largest attack, Ukraine's defense forces destroy over 200 out of 236 Russian missiles and drones.
Dutch watchdog finds Uber $324 million for unsafe transfer of driver data to U.S. In New Zealand, court rules Uber drivers are employees, not contractors. When Boeing Starliner comes back empty, it'll destroy the malfunctioning thrusters, making it impossible to study what went wrong. J.D. Power study finds growing frustration with advanced tech. Xpeng aims to assemble EVs in Europe to blunt impact of import tariffs, CEO says. United States Department of Transportation releases seminal plan for nationwide V2X, vehicle-to-everything deployment. These technologies allow vehicles to communicate real-time information directly with other vehicles, infrastructure, and vulnerable road users to improve transportation outcomes across the board.
Jenna Ortega quit Twitter after seeing explicit AI photos of herself as a teen. Soldier in Alaska used AI to make fake porn of children he knew, federal authorities say. Malaysia plan to license social media platforms sparks pushback as tech giants urge Malaysia to pause plan for social media platform licenses. 1 month ago it had been announced as Malaysia to ask social media platforms with over 8 million users to get licenses.
Fed cuts may send $1 trillion FX avalanche to China, Jen says. Chinese stock exchanges to stop releasing data on overseas fund flows. SEC's case against Kraken will proceed to trial, California judge rules. Korean authorities eye budget bump with funds for chips, K-pop. Inflation in Germany fell below 2% for the first time in August, according to Deutsche Bank, as Germany confirms economy shrank in second quarter. UK shop prices fall for first time in almost 3 years.
Quick commerce unicorn Zepto raises $340 million in follow-on round. Valuation jumps to $5 billion. Decision in Apple tax case to be issued on September 10th by top EU court. Affirm shares of best day in 3 years surged 32% after earnings beat.
China says EU brandy being dumped on local market, but won't impose duties, for now. US and European airlines pay more, lose out to Chinese carriers amid Russian airspace closure. Galactic Energy launches 6 satellites, in third sea launch. Russian and Senegalese FM discuss development, security in bilateral meeting. Serbia makes a $3 billion deal to buy 12 French warplanes, in a shift away from Russia. China's international use of renminbi surges to record highs.
Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway hits $1 trillion market value, first U.S. company outside of tech to do so. NVIDIA announces financial results for second quarter fiscal 2024, up 88% from Q1, up 101% from year ago. Wealthy are purchasing doomsday luxury bomb shelters amid social unrest, says founder.
Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh unable to confirm that Ukraine's F-16 was downed by friendly fire. Ukraine admits loss of F-16, which it says crashed while repelling Russian attack this week. Kiev announces plans to transport Azerbaijani gas to Europe instead of Russian, by Podolyak. Russian central bank says new rate hike in September is not a certainty.
Lego to replace oil in its bricks with pricier renewable plastic. Shimano patents wireless, electric cycling shoes that adjust automatically. Physicists accidentally found a new way to represent pi. Israeli companies banned from winning Irish defense contracts, announced Taoiseach, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ireland. In the U.S., Army signed $1 billion deal for massive order of Switchblade kamikaze drones.
Spain blocks Hungarian rail bid over possible Russia ties, and for telco takeover, Brussels raises no objection to Spanish veto of Hungarian bid. Circles of Hungarian national arrested in the U.S. likely received hundreds of thousands of euros from Hungarian state in Russia. Recently in the U.S., a Hungarian national arrested on charges of conspiring to export 200 U.S. military-grade radios into Russia. In Nord Stream case, saboteur is said to have fled in a diplomatic car.
In the UK, shops buying stolen goods from professional shoplifters, retail groups say, Dollar General stock price plunges 30% as company says customers don't have enough money to shop there. Lululemon, Hermes copies entice China's shoppers away from labels. Belarusian fighter jets shot down Shahid drone over their country. North Korea unveils clones of Israeli kamikaze drones. Pentagon withholds $5 million per F-35 jet as deliveries resume. New Zealand says Australian-owned banks run oligopoly. U.S. Latinos contributed $1.3 trillion to the GDP, about as much as Florida's economy, report finds. In Argentina, for pension moratorium, 70% of those who retired in 2022 did so without contributions. GM must face big class action over faulty transmissions. 5 months ago, GM 8-speed transmission lawsuit granted class action certification. Toyota global output falls for 6th straight month in July. Mazda 3 4th generation's class action lawsuit claims defects for thousands of vehicles.
Pentagon approves additional support to Secret Service for election campaigns. FBI accesses encrypted email accounts of Trump shooter. And FBI sees no definitive ideology for Trump shooter. The plot to attack Taylor Swift's Vienna shows was intended to kill thousands, a CIA official says. Former Russian Deputy Defense Minister Pavel Popov detained on fraud charges. Iran's supreme leader opens door to negotiations with U.S. over Tehran's nuclear program. UK's Starmer calls for European cooperation to tackle far-right.
Tanker carrying 150,000 tons of oil hit in biggest Red Sea attack in weeks. An oil tanker Saunian poses environmental risk after Houthi attack in Red Sea. India surpasses China to become Russia's top oil buyer in July. Houthis targeted 182 ships in total, 21 operations in the last week.
Hamas said to decide to target Israelis abroad in bid to avenge Haniyeh killing. October 7th mastermind and Hamas leader Yehia Sinwar reportedly adds new demand for ceasefire deal with Don't Kill Me. UN announced Israel forcibly displaced 250,000 Gazans in August. Bullet wounds and bodies of all 6 hostages from Gaza suggest they were killed by captors.
At least 100 people killed in central Burkina Faso in latest jihadi attack. Denmark shuts embassies in junta-led Mali and Burkina Faso following military coups. Paris commemorates the 80th anniversary of liberation from German occupation. Palestinian Authority to attend BRICS summit, apply for membership, and Palestine asked Russia for support ahead of Abbas' visit to Gaza, ambassador said.
Reportedly, Israel is buying Google ads to discredit the UN's top Gaza aid agency. Yahya Sinwar reportedly hiding in plain sight dressed as a woman. Pakistani judge acquits a man over spreading misinformation that sparked riots in UK.
China's military to conduct armed patrols, live fire exercises near Myanmar border, as Myanmar junta set to lose restive state to ethnic armed group. 3 months ago, powerful ethnic armed group in western Myanmar claims to capture base and hundreds of soldiers. Former Malaysian leader Muhyiddin charged with sedition for allegedly mocking former king. Japan scrambles fighters after Chinese military plane incursion.
Israel launches large-scale West Bank raid as minister calls for Gaza-style operation. 5 Palestinian gunmen, including top commander, killed by IDF at West Bank mosque. Top Hamas official Mashal urges resumption of suicide bombings against Israel.
Netherlands OK's use of its F-16s by Ukraine on Russian territory. We are not at war with Moscow. Italy bans Ukraine from using its weapons to strike Russia. A very big Russia problem. NATO commander warns of post-Ukraine war threat to US and Europe.
U.S. ambassador to Mexico warns of drug cartel risks to Mexican judiciary from AMLO bill. Indonesia drops plan to revise election law after protests, and Indonesia stocks rebound after protests derail election law. In Brazil, a project aims to make daily pledging allegiance to the Brazilian flag mandatory in secondary and primary schools.
France's Macron won't name leftist prime minister, prolonging political crisis. Donald Trump threatens to pull out of the 10th of September presidential debate, as Harris wants Trump's MIC to stay unmuted during entire upcoming debate. Harris versus Trump election debate in the balance over muted microphones. Russian army good in winter fighting, claims Trump.
Trump says we gotta restrict the First Amendment, and Donald Trump warns of World War III during speech in Detroit. Georgia governor inquires whether he can remove MAGA election board members after series of alarming votes. 1M plus ineligible voters removed from Texas rolls since 2021, Governor Abbott says.
Republican political campaigns, including his own. Missouri Attorney General's legal war against media matters shot down by federal judge. Federal judge rules Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act unconstitutional.
Maduro says, no one messed with Brazil when Bolsonaro contested the election. China's Communist Party brings in new rules to regulate faith, loyalty, and performance. Church of England dropping word church to be more modern.
China ally Solomon Islands irked over conditions in Australia brokered Pacific police deal. Indonesia and Australia to hold complex defense drills as security ties deepen. Afghanistan is grateful to Russia for support, announced Taliban's chief logistics officer.
China's ambassador to U.S. says, no reason why China and U.S. relations should be zero-sum game. China's she meets U.S. National Security Advisor as the two powers work to avoid conflict. TASS reports as, China, U.S. failed to make progress in discussing Ukraine crisis, says U.S. Security Advisor. Kamala Harris pitches continuity in China-lite first interview since nomination.
France's Macron says giving Telegram CEO Durov French citizenship, the man with 4 passports, was a good thing, and arrested Telegram CEO Pavel Durov met with Macron several times before obtaining French nationality. Telegram CEO Durov indicted in France, banned from leaving country, as France charges Telegram CEO Pavel Durov, releases him on €5 million bail. Macron asked Pavel Durov to move Telegram headquarters to Paris in 2018, Wall Street Journal reports.
Borrell asks EU to consider sanctions on 2 Israeli ministers. As EU foreign policy chief tables sanctions on hardline Israeli ministers for hate crimes, and EU's Borrell fails in attempt to impose sanctions on Ben-Gvir, Smotrich. Canadians split on taking in more Gazan refugees, concern about screening, as per poll.
Putin to visit ICC signatory Mongolia despite arrest warrant. EU to move forward with Russian asset plan regardless of US. US threatens sanctions against countries hosting Russian banks. Harris says, appointing a Republican to her cabinet would benefit Americans. Harris has 48% support to Trump's 47%, says Wall Street Journal poll. Vance urges Till to get off the sidelines and support Trump.
Marijuana user cannot be banned from gun ownership, U.S. court rules. Illegal migrants do not have gun rights protected by Second Amendment, as per Federal Appeals Court. In Germany, for reaction to Solingen event, federal government agrees on security and migration package, as Germany tightens weapons, deportation rules after fatal attack. In the U.S., Army says Arlington National Cemetery worker was pushed aside by Trump aides. Arlington worker in altercation with Trump staffers not pressing charges because she fears retaliation. Jack White says he's suing Trump campaign over 7 Nation Army video. ABBA demand Trump campaign stop using their music at rallies.
J.D. Vance booed by firefighter union audience. After Walz's appeal to same group, Kamala Harris could make history as the first president to work at McDonald's. Musk's X censors coverage of Trump's Arlington incident, citing potential spam. As X flags NPR story on Trump, Arlington as unsafe.
U.S. Congress House plans votes on Biosecure Act, other measures hitting China. Local governments in China to smash iron pots, sell the steel to stave off debt risk.
Trump asks federal court to intervene in hush money case in bid to toss conviction, delay sentencing. Trump campaign was warned not to take photos at Arlington before altercation, defense official says. Trump shares social media posts with QAnon phrases and calls for jailing lawmakers, special counsel.
Franklin Templeton expands FOBXX tokenized money market fund to Avalanche blockchain. Trump promotes family's new crypto platform, the Defiant Ones. Ethereum ETF sees $14.30 million daily inflow via Fidelity, and Bitcoin ETF's record sixth consecutive trading day of inflows amid BlackRock surge.
Australia's securities regulator wins case against Kraken's local operator. Former FTX executive Ryan Salami claims government backtracked on plea deal announced in filing, and former FTX executive's girlfriend faces campaign finance charges. Omega Pro co-founder arrested in Turkey on suspicion of $4 billion Ponzi scheme, claimed in reports.
Group. China extradites mastermind behind $14 billion crypto pyramid scheme. KlueCoin founder pleads guilty to stealing $1.1 million of investor funds for online gambling.
In the U.S., Kentucky prisoners hack state-issued computer tablets to digitally create $1 million. Sam Altman's WorldCoin violated data policies, Colombia regulator says. Hacker uses McDonald's Instagram to steal $700,000 in memecoin rug pull.
FBI recovers $5 million from pig butchering crypto scam. As in two pig butcher busts, federal authorities recover $5 million. Former Kansas Bank CEO jailed. SEC pushes back against Hex founder Richard Hart's efforts to dismiss case. 1 month ago, SEC charges Hex founder Richard Hart with misappropriating millions of dollars of investor funds from unregistered crypto asset securities offerings that raised more than $1 billion. Who controls Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX? Sony is launching an Ethereum L2 called Sonium to realize the open internet, as Sony, Startail unveiled blockchain project in latest Web3 foray. Tether CEO says no plans for a USDT network. ETH Layer 2 Lisk partners to bring Indonesian government-supported Web3 program as Lisk and Jerica Nasional 1000 Startup Digital unveil Ignite 3. Shiba Inu announces launch of decentralized autonomous organization. Stablecoins hit record market cap of nearly $170 billion after year of growth. India's CBDC has 5M users, can be phased in gradually. Central bank governor. In Singapore, second richest man in China jail for 6 years over $5 million crypto fraud. Abra reaches settlement with SEC over unregistered securities violations. SEC charges siblings over $60 million Ponzi, touting a crypto trading bot.
Ecuador Central Bank announced as, we do not have power to ban crypto.
Coinbase Base Layer 2 hits 1 million daily active addresses, as base names go parabolic. Hong Kong regulator finds unsatisfactory practices at some crypto entities seeking full license, report. Rhodium Bitcoin mining firm declares bankruptcy in Texas court.
South Korean crypto firm Haru Invest CEO stabbed during fraud trial, police say. Kylian Mbappe's X account hack fuels $1 million crypto scam. Backpage.com founder Michael Lacey sentenced to 5 years in prison, fined $3 million for money laundering.
U.S. House Committee plans for heap of crypto hearings in September. Crypto hacks surged to over $1.2 billion in 2024, Immunify reports. Crypto ATMs surged 17 times in Australia, amid concerns over use by bad actors. Crypto.com taps Standard Chartered to offer fiat services to users globally. El Salvador's Bukele says Bitcoin strategy a net positive, but adoption lags. Binance CEO Tung rejects allegations the exchange froze all Palestinians' funds.
Musk beats suit over promoting Dogecoin pyramid scheme. Former FTX executive Ryan Salami drops bid to vacate conviction. Shiba Inu, SHIB, can now be used as collateral on Kraken exchange.
Chinese multifunctional $16,000 humanoid robot, Unitree G1 set for mass production. AI tongue scanner can diagnose illnesses with 96% accuracy. MasterCard is phasing out magnetic stripes. The Epic Games Store launches on mobile. Steve Jobs' personally owned and worn leather bomber jacket, worn in the iconic 1983 middle finger to IBM photo, is on auction. US FDA clears use of Cresselin's gel to stop severe bleeding in seconds. Microplastics are infiltrating brain tissue, studies show.
11 Hong Kong banks pledge quicker credit in HKMA's task force to help small businesses. Amid private credit boom, Dallas fintech SEEP lands $30 million Series B to expand tech-enabled solutions. UBS activism bankers depart for roles at BofA, Wells Fargo.
Ioniq 5N named 2024 World Performance Car, signaling fourth major victory for all-electric Ioniq 5 lineup in the last 3 years. BMW overtakes Tesla in European electric car market. GM-owned Cruise will partner with Uber to offer driverless rides.
Germany raises security level due to potential threat. German intelligence agency BND is scouting for fresh talents during Gamescom.
Putin shifts blame as Kursk failures dampen Russians' approval. 2 weeks ago, Russia declares state of emergency in Kursk as Ukraine pushes incursion. Russia begins installing concrete shelters in Kursk region amid Ukrainian incursion. Finland to deploy around 5,000 NATO troops near Russian border.
Former U.S. ambassador to UN pushes for Taiwan's UN membership, stronger global stand against China. Trinidad is redrawing its coat of arms to remove Columbus' 3 famous ships. She meets Belarusian president in Beijing, vows to deepen ties. Stellantis shareholders sue automaker in U.S. after low earnings. China takes the lead in Latin America's automotive market. Diplomatic missions in Ethiopia now included in fossil fuel-powered vehicles import ban.
Canada forces arbitration in freight train labor dispute to avert economic crisis. Union cries foul. Reportedly, looming Canadian railroad work stoppage threatens U.S. supply chains. In Argentina, the government has freed up competition for gas exports. SCMP comments as, Boeing's first engineer came from China. Now it hires mostly from India.
Malaysia seen pausing rate through 2024 as inflation risks fade. Yen climbs as Ueda indicates that rates can go higher in Japan, and dollar slips against yen ahead of Powell's speech. Russian inflation soars